For a band called Tear, their music provides a lot of the opposite, a safe haven and powerful home for people looking for meaning, looking for hope, and just for those who get addicted to those really good breakdowns and stage dives early in life. Welcome to the Scandalous podcast, hardcore legend, singer of Terror, Buried Alive, Despair, Bad Blood, Slugfest, and I'm sure I'm missing some. I actually know which one, but we'll talk about that later. Scott, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Calling me a legend's a little weird. I wouldn't go that far, but thank you for having me.
It's just what everyone says behind your back. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
If that's what people are saying behind my back, I'll take it. But
There you go. You've arrived, my friend. People are saying good things about you behind your back. There you go. Really good. Well, I know why you're happy because the Bills won last night. Huge Bills fan. Who else are your teams besides the Bills?
all sports, we're talking. I back the Bills and the Sabres, which is the hockey team in Buffalo. College basketball, I'm into the Georgetown Hoyas. Baseball, I don't really, I'd say Pittsburgh, but I don't really care. For me, baseball is more about just going and having some peanuts and fresh air. What am I missing? That's really it. I kind of like every sport, but those are the teams I really care about. NBA basketball, I don't really watch too much.
No,
That's it.
there you go. Well, being a sports fan, is there a game that you would be really, really, really excited to attend, either in the future or in the past?
I only really go to Sabres games because they're very lowly attended. I will not go to a Bills game. That's like 50,000 people sold out. I'm just not really good with crowds. I'm good with just staying home and watching on my TV.
There you go.
Long lines and screaming people and drunk people. That's not fun for me. So I'll
So
stay home.
it's okay when you do that. You make other people do that. But if someone else is doing it, hey,
Sure, I'll go. Yes, but the Sabres games, sometimes they're more packed, but I'll try to avoid those games. But if you go on like a Tuesday night, sadly the Sabres aren't so great and haven't been too great. And I still support them, but the truth is, they haven't made the playoffs in a very long time, so their games are kind of low attended. So that's nice for me.
there you go. All you need is some Hollywood actor to come in, make a movie, and bring that team back to life. And that
No
would,
thanks.
yeah.
No thanks.
No,
No
oh
thanks.
no. Oh yeah. We're no crowds, no crowds. I got it. So let's talk early years. When you discovered hardcore, what was the catalyst to transition you from concert goer to I got to get up on that stage? I know I can do it.
I always really credit. So there's a band from Buffalo called Zero Tolerance, and they're like, if you're from Buffalo, or they're kind of uh, underappreciated by the world. But if you're from like Buffalo or somewhere like Syracuse, like Earth Crisis, a lot of people close to Buffalo cite them because they're so great live. But if you like never saw them because you're younger, they never really put out a really great record. They kind of broke up before they got their just due. So they were like the band that drew me in, and I kind of like worshiped them and still do. So I say that to say below them, everyone really knows Snapcase from Buffalo. The band before Snapcase is called Solid State, before they kind of changed their name to Snapcase. And their singer was this kid, Chris Gallus. And he was, not a good friend of mine, but someone I would talk to a little. And when that band started, and I just saw someone that I saw at shows that I would say hello to and would be watching the bands with, when I saw him get up on stage and rip the stage up, I think that was kind of like when I said, I want to do this. So just seeing appear in my own kind of, he might be a year older than me, maybe in my age bracket, someone I just saw as someone equal as me, because I saw Zero Tolerance as like above me. do it. I was just like, I want to do this. So up until that point, me and my brother, who got me into all underground music, we had done some really crappy bands where I played drums and I never was good at drums at all. I think when I saw him, that's when I said I want to sing for a band. And then my first band that I sang for, Slugfest, started then.
Awesome. And something I talk to a lot of people about all the time, constantly, nonstop. We all have imposter syndrome. And I think every person on this earth struggles with feeling not good enough and like they can't do it. So, do you remember ever having that feeling, or like how you kind of amped yourself up to go from like the drums to up on a stage? Did you just have it naturally? Do you remember like, okay, I got to do this. Okay, got it. Okay, these are, and just like sitting down to write lyrics for the first time and figuring out like how to own a stage for the first time?
Lyrics, yes. And what you're describing about getting on stage, that came later for me when things got more serious. But the early days, like it was so carefree. Like there was there wasn't a competitive bone in my body. Like none of those things. Like I didn't even know what a green room was. I didn't know what a guest list was. I didn't know what a set time was. I didn't even know what a monitor was. Like so you can hear yourself. It was really at that time just like no there was, and I had no desire. Like Zero Tolerance was here, all the other local bands were here, and we were just there, and I was like okay with that. I didn't There was no desire to be the best or to be great. It was just wanting to be a part and play music. So I think I was okay with not being good or whatever. Later on, as things got more serious, when you learn more things and you become a little bit, you get sucked up into the competitiveness and all the bullshit that comes with being in a band and record labels and numbers and all that shit. Then what you described came, but writing lyrics, yeah, because I think at that time too, it was just about the energy of the crowd and maybe getting someone to sing along with you. But I guess writing lyrics is always a little bit odd to put yourself out there and try to say something that is meaningful yet not embarrassing.
That's funny. That's a good quote. Meaningful, but not embarrassing. That's funny. I like that. Do you remember what you were all fired up about when you were younger, song wise and lyric wise?
I mean, not to go too deep because I didn't have like the worst childhood, but I just I grew up with my mom, and then she eventually moved to Texas, and kind of uh then I moved in with my dad, and my mom and my two sisters were gone, and I kind of had to start like a new life. And early on, my mom, we were pretty poor, and she had to move a lot to work. So I think just my mom kind of, I don't like to put her in a bad spotlight because I really think she's a great person. And since having some time to reflect, I kind of see her point of view, why she moved. But, kind of having your mom for the first whatever years of your life, and then her being totally gone, and kind of moving into a new setting with my mom. We moved around a lot, and then totally moving in with my dad and my stepmom and my stepbrother. I think it just caused a lot of abandonment issues and whatever came along with what I just described. So I think that just made me kind of a little bit rebellious and angry, and finding hardcore. I think hardcore is way, I don't know the right word. I don't want to say more mainstream now, but you get more kids that aren't so fucked up, I think. I don't want to judge people, but back then it was smaller, and it seemed like almost everyone that was in the scene was a little bit uh, Disturbed. Um, so it just felt like, and like I said, I was always moving, and I really didn't have problem making friends, but when you move every couple years as a kid, it kind of really fucks with you that you would never really make deep bonds with people because they're in your life for a couple years. So I think when I found hardcore, this was when I just moved in with my dad, stepbrother, and stepmom. I really didn't know anyone else. So finding hardcore and finding all these fucked up people and music that's aggressive kind of just clicked for me. And yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And I like music to be heavy, intense, and dangerous. And I feel it when I'm at a show. I feel the danger like all over my body. It's all encompassing. And I watched the video for Always the Hard Way last night. And if I had the superpower to be a lead singer with what is inside of me, it would manifest like it did for you in that video. Exactly how you came off in that video is everything I love about heavy music. So, what attracted you to hardcore and what do you love about it now?
I think what attracted me, what I was just kind of describing, when I needed a tribe in a community. Uh, I always say this too, which doesn't always really go over. I think it's more accepted now, but it kind of was like frowned upon to be jockish. Like if you called someone a jock in the more even in the punk scene, it was kind of like a negative. And I was like, yeah, I am a jock. Like I love sports, but I think for me, like the kind of until I found hardcore, I played lots of sports and I love sports. I still do love sports, but I think kind of like the the energy on stage and the moshing and all that shit kind of reminded me of like a full contact sport, which is kind of like something maybe people in the scene don't want to hear, but I think that's the truth with me. So I think that energy and aggression, the community, feeling like you have a tribe, and then something super important that I don't think should ever be lost. This is in like hip hop too. I think the lyrics, like a good like a good rock song, a lot of it is maybe more about like relationships and like being depressed because some female broke your heart or something like that. Hardcore, I hope it has that element too, but a lot of it is looking at the world, being more open to seeing the pitfalls of society in the world, and kind of like it's kind of like always been a teacher for me. Like it doesn't happen so much more now, but like a lot of times when I would go to shows back more in the early 90s that started, there would be tables with like all sorts of zines and like pamphlets, and people would get up on stage and debate politics. Like the whole scene was really centered around looking at the world and calling out the fucked up things in it. And I didn't always agree with these things, but at least it's trying to teach you and open your mind to things and put a spotlight on pointing out things in the world that are fucked up. And sometimes, I was like, wow, this is great. I totally agree. And this is something that I've adapted into the way I think for the rest of my life. Other times I was like, what you're saying is stupid, but at least people are saying something. And I think underground music should have that element. That's something I always appreciated.
I love that. And my favorite thing to do every week is to watch John Oliver and Bill Maher every week. That's my favorite thing to do on earth. So I'm like, oh, I love that. I really care about the world around me and culture and everything. So that's my happy place. So I love that. Would have been
Good.
fun to have been around back then. That would have been fun. So what is your favorite song?
In the world?
I mean, we can do two, three. I mean, let's
So
it's my job to poke and prod you and then see
are
where you
we
go.
I'm hoping you say not terror. Are we talking terror or just
Not terror.
other?
No,
Okay.
not terror.
I mean, I'm just gonna go off the top of my head here. So there's a band called Rival Schools. They have a song called Small Doses. That's maybe um like we have this friend named AK. She's from Germany, and she toured with us for about in Europe. She did merch for us for it feels like about 5 to 10 years. And me and her are Walter Schreifel super fans, and that's the singer of Rival Schools, also Quicksand. Also, he played guitar in Gorilla Biscuits and so on. And there's the song Small Doses, and me and her used to drink a lot. She has since got married, has a child who she is crazy enough that made me her daughter's stepfather.
Godfather.
Godfather. Jesus Christ. Godfather. So this is how crazy she is. But yeah, we used to drink a lot, and we would very often be up late. And Terror is lucky enough to be on a bus a lot in Europe. So we would be playing this song, singing at the top of our lungs. So there's members of Terror that hate this song because they've heard it so many times from us singing it. But yeah, so Small Doses by Rival Schools. Favorite song.
Well, I do have to ask, I have heard that song before.
Uh-huh.
And it's fun to talk about lyrics and like what they mean to you. So like what about that song makes it like such a heartfelt song for you? Like what lyrics like do you relate to most in it?
It's really not so much the lyrics, because I think that's kind of a song that I was describing. Honestly, I never really picked the lyrics apart, but I think it says don't stay away, don't come. So I think it's about not getting too close to someone because maybe you're scared to get too close to them. But it's not really the lyrics with that song. It's just Walter's voice, and it's very light, and the focus is on the guitar. Like the drummer Sammy is just playing very quietly. So I think it's just his voice and the ambiance of the song.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't go into the lyrics that deep with that one. Yeah, I think it's just Walter's voice mostly.
I love that. So you're off work when you're listening sometimes. It doesn't have to always be about the lyrics.
And I've heard a lot, and I asked because Walter knows that I worship him, and there's the recorded version of the song. He says, "Don't stay away, don't come close," but on other versions of the song that I've heard, they have some like a BBC radio, like in studio. He says, "Don't go away." So I asked him the difference, and I think he told me he just fucked the lyrics up. So there's no meaning there either. He just sang it wrong.
Yeah, that's funny. And I will say Break the Lock is my favorite Tear song. What are some of the lyrics you're most proud of writing in Tear?
Break the Lock. Ben Cook from No Warning wrote all those lyrics. I have nothing to do with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's the way the break the lock, set yourself free. It's just like the way you sing it and the vibe of that, how you stack it, that like is the whatever. It's the vibe, it's the attitude that I cannot get over.
So that's the song where Aunt Money from E-Town sings on it, I think.
Oh, really?
I think so. So I would say up into Keepers of the Faith, then comes Live by the Code. I think those first, let's say 6 Terror records, I wrote everything. And then it became a certain point where I kind of started seeing that my vocabulary and also the way I write 2 songs is my brain only works in certain ways. So I said, all right, if this and maybe a touch of writer's block or whatever. I said, if we're gonna keep going and put out fucking 70,000 records, I need to be open to outside help and seeing other people's visions and stuff. So Ben Cook from a band called No Warning, which is Jordan and Terror's band he was in before Terror.
Mm-hmm.
On that record, which I think that song's on Total Retaliation. We
Mm-hmm.
have so much shit out. Two times Ben came to the studio with us and kind of was like vocal producer. Like he would help me with lyrics to some songs and word placement to some songs. And that one, I believe, is an old phrase he had from a No Warning song that he never used. And I think with some of the lyrics, I always write in my phone. Like anytime I hear like a cool line or a word or a phrase, whether it be from something I think of, a movie, I hear it in a hip hop song, I always go into the notes in my phone and write down all the stuff. Like, so I just have phrases and phrases. So I always forward it to them. And sometimes when he's writing, he'll start with one of my lines or use my lines here and there. But a lot of that he did, the flow he did. So I'm glad your favorite Terror thing I had nothing to do with.
That's hysterical, by the way. I mean, it doesn't get funnier than that. That's so funny. So I don't have this as a question, but I think it's great to talk about. So hardcore is really like looking at the world and talking about it, and yeah, just like looking at the world and identifying and having conversation. So what are you, I'm definitely going to ask. So my next question is like, what lyrics in Terror are you most proud of course, but also what are you most proud of lyric wise for Terror, where you're like looking at the world and breaking it down and you know you've made a difference in changing hearts and minds in a certain way?
uh, I do have people come up to me pretty often and tell me specific lyrics to specific things help them through. Sometimes they say some things I really don't know how to react to because they bring up like suicide or addiction or someone close to them died and they use Terror lyrics to get through all sorts of things. And those conversations are extremely uncomfortable in the moment because I could be like, in a totally different mood. And then someone approaches me and comes with this super heavy thing. And of course, I'm totally open to have the conversation. But in the moment, it's very heavy. And a lot of times it comes out of nowhere. But then when I get away from that and think about it, like when you're posing this question to me, that's really one of the beautiful things about music in general. Like you brought up small, like we talked about Small Doses, and you kind of leaned into the lyrics. But to me, that song, even without the lyrics, it totally changes my mood. And anytime I hear it, so whether it's the aura of the music or the lyrics, or it's probably the combination of both. The way music can, whether you're trying to get higher or lower, like, sometimes I'll put music on straight up just to depress me. Or, like Terror just played a show on Sunday, and it was in Massachusetts, and I drove home 6 hours. I left at 9 o'clock and had to drive till 3. And my plan was to listen to podcasts, but they were starting to put me to sleep. So I had to go into like music that's going to keep me awake and keep me thinking. So like I usually clean my apartment every Sunday and I'll put on music. So like music does so much for your mood and to push you and to help you get through things. So when people say things like that to me or show me they have their lyrics tattooed on them or know some of the Terror lyrics better than I do, because there's so many Terror songs that I haven't even thought about, that we have so many songs. So that's very humbling and I really appreciate that. And it shows me that we're doing something more than creating sick mosh pits. What terror lyrics mean the most to me? There's a terror song called Shattered, which I wrote about my ex-girlfriend who I was with for like 8 or 9 years. And I really, what's the right term? I was really in the wrong at the end of our relationship. And she was really a great person. And I was really a selfish, not great person. So it's funny too, because Death Threat, a hardcore band from Connecticut, one of my favorite bands, they somewhere around the middle, maybe on their, they have a demo and then an EP and then their first album, Peace and Security, and they wrote like kind of a broken heart love song. And I kind of like, you know, jabbed at Aaron like, oh my God, I can't believe you wrote like a love song. And then fast forward 10 years later, I did the same thing. And it was literally like, I think when the record came, Keepers of the Faith came out, and I had written this, I told the band we can't play it live because I'll like fucking start crying. So that's like a song that really, like, even when I listen to it now, I'm so past that part of my life, but it's just like it's deep, and it's a good reminder to know being a terrible person affects other people, and try not to be horrible.
That's funny. Yeah. Good to know. So I wanted to take the opportunity to do a little education. A lot of my listeners are metalheads. I'm a metalhead. I'm brand new to hardcore myself. So some people like to shame people for knowing things, not knowing things. I think there's no harm, no foul, no shame in asking an expert. So a kid comes up to you at a show, love the show, wants to know more about hardcore. Where do you tell them to start?
I would say, I think what you're asking, and I could be wrong, you're probably asking for a record. But I would
Yeah, I'm
say,
talking about like bands and albums and songs, and you're like, hey, kid, start here, go here.
I would say find a smaller, like not a big show, like a smaller DIY venue with mostly local bands and maybe one band that's on tour or from out of town, and really start at the foundation. Like the you know, if you go to a show with 1,000 people and everyone's going crazy, that's going to be cool. But if you really want to find out if this is something that's for you, go to like a smaller show with local bands and see what it's really about. And then I think you'll know if it's really for you. That's what I would say.
That's one of the best answers I've ever heard on any of the interviews I've heard. That's a fantastic answer. That's really good. I like that. And we'll talk more about songs I love later on. But while we're here, every
Wait,
day I wake up. Uh-huh.
I would say though, if we're talking a record, go with Warzone. Don't forget the struggle, but get it on vinyl, because you got to look at the pictures, you got to look at the lyrics, you got to look at the thank you list, because that record has everything a hardcore record should have in that layout. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, it's perfect. You added to it. You made it even better. Good job. I love it. Okay. Hold on, scratch my nose. There you go. Okay, great. And we'll talk more songs I love later on. But while we're here, every day I wake up older, I understand more and more the lyrics to Return to Strength. Having a bad day, put that song on. It just kind of made me laugh because being an adult is so much like this world's a fucking nightmare. It brings me nothing but pain, chasing dreams that don't exist. Everything's not what it seems. And that's it. No notes, 10 out of 10. It's a great song, but I wanted to celebrate the lyrics. It does bring me to a question though. Does the world feel a little bit different to you after the pandemic? And does this year seem particularly crazy to you?
This year?
Yeah.
Okay, can I talk about return to strength? Because a couple thoughts came to my mind, and then I'll go to the question.
Yeah, that's a podcast.
Okay. uh I remember I had the verses done, but I didn't have like the what you call the hook, like the return to strength line. And I can't remember what song it was. I was walking, like I take a lot of walks by myself. So this is back in 2009. I was taking a walk in Europe. I'm sure we were on tour. And I listened to a Kickback song. So if someone went through the Kickback discography, there's something close to Return to Strength. So I bit it from them. I can't remember what it is. But the thing about that song, so that song's on Keepers of the Faith, which Chad Gilbert from Newfound Glory produced that record. Now, it's a great song, but Chad is very musical. He's like an actual musician. And part of the reason why the songs on Keepers of the Faith are so catchy is because of him. But on Return to Strength, he made us, because I know I was especially pushing back. At the end of the song, after the breakdown, it goes back to the chorus, a third chorus. So this song is longer than most Terror songs. And I think it's the only time there's ever a third chorus on a Terror song. So it's like verse, chorus, breakdown. That's usually the end. But since it's a slower song and more anthemic, he really made us do the third chorus, which is great and makes the song more of a song. But when we play it live now, I always just want it to be over and not do the third chorus. I'm still in the mind frame of hardcore kid, never musical. But all that said, we've worked with producers, great ones. Will Putney helped us, Zeus helped us, but Chad Gilbert and the experience we had with him was unbelievable. The ideas he had and the stuff he did and the way he pushed me with lyrics. I was actually living with him at the time. I think I was living in Syracuse then, and with my friend Patrick for just like a year. And I stayed with him. This is when Chad was living in LA. So I lived with him while we were recording. And like even after the recording, when we were at night back at his house, he was like pushing me on the lyrics. And like I think Shattered, which I talked about earlier, was the last song on the record where he was like really pushing me lyrically. So I had to come with some shit that would really meant something. And as I described earlier, it did. So now to your question. Do I think the world is different after the pandemic, and is it so crazy right now? Well, the pandemic, for me, was kind of like a whirlwind. I got COVID immediately and really bad, and it really fucked because it was like, it wasn't in my lungs, it was all in my head or here, sinuses. And after COVID left my body or whatever, my ear, because it was so inflamed or congested, my ear kept closing. And I don't know if you've ever had like a plugged up ear. It makes you kind of dizzy and it's very uncomfortable. So I had to get this surgery where they put me to sleep and put some shit and like opened up it was brutal. So anyways, after I got past this surgery, which sucked, I was like, this was immediately because we were on tour when COVID hit the world and I got it right away. And I thought I was going to die. And then I didn't, but then my ear was fucked up. So let's say a couple months after that, I was like, all right, I didn't die. And for the first time in like 20 years, we had no way of touring. So I was free a little bit. So I don't want to say I enjoyed COVID because I think that would be really insensitive, but there was parts about it for me that were uh, I needed to become grounded and to see what calmness was like. So that was good. I also moved back to Buffalo at that time, which was something I had been thinking about, but I never had a break. So that was a big change. And I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know if COVID has to do with this directly, but I also like over the last couple of years really I don't want to say stop drinking because I tell people I don't drink anymore and then they see me with a beer and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I used to drink a lot and I tried to stop drinking for like 10 years and I finally found a way to just have a drink. I haven't been drunk in like it feels like 2 years. So there are some for me like yes, when I look at the outside world, it's insane. The world, like the lyric of Return to Strength, the world is crazy. But I think the only way for me to deal with that was to take a look at my own life and try to make it a little less crazy, which I mean, I still have a lot of weird things going on, but I think I've made some steps to be a little more calm and better.
Yeah.
So I guess it's also insensitive to say I need to shut this out because if I put that weight on top of the weight I have on myself, I might sink. So I've just tried to be a little bit better and hopefully me being better radiates to the people around me and it makes things a little bit better for more people outside of just my immediate selfishness.
Gotcha. Well, it's a good way to be. Shut it all out. In control. That's a
I'm
great way to
trying.
be.
I'm trying.
Yeah, it's a great way to be. So was it Chad's idea to also do that Harry Potter opening to keep your of the faith?
It's not Harry Potter.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
How is it not Harry?
The
That's
little
Professor
sample.
Snape. Yeah.
That is that was my friend Patrick who does I don't know if Reaper Records
I
is
swear to
still a
God,
label.
I thought it was I sort of well,
I swear to
it's
God,
the voice, it's the voice, it's you're about I mean, like, I'm not wrong. It's the voice of Professor Snape. I swear to God, it's the voice of Professor Snape.
I swear to God, the fact that you think Terror has a Harry Potter sample,
I've always had questions.
it I it's from some sort of
How is your brain boiling right now?
no
How do you feel? You were trying to keep the world out, and then I just asked you this as a question in a podcast. How does it make you feel?
I've never heard this Harry Potter theory, but I will debunk it. I think
Okay.
the movie is called The Vow. It's
Okay.
like a 70s Jesus Christian movie, like about Jesus getting crucified to the cross with like actors and stuff. I think it's called The Vow. And it was my friend Patrick, who at the time I lived with him for a year. I said in Syracuse. So he's from He's actually German, but he lives in Syracuse. Um, so he had so much to do with the Keepers of the Faith record, and he had the idea for. I came up with the title. I'm not sure how he found that clip, the Harry Potter clip, but it's. I think
Now
it's.
it's like my life's goal
I
to go
think
find
it's.
something that sounds like it and send it
I
to
think
you.
it's from the movie called The Vow, but it's some
Okay.
Christian Jesus movie.
Gotcha. I really did think it was a Harry Potter sample this entire time.
No, no, no.
Does that make your brain boil? Whatever. That's funny. You try and keep the world out and the world comes to you. That was really funny. Another question I have. Okay, so top five, top three favorite movies of all time is 25th Hour. So is your album 25th
Oh,
Hour from the movie 25th Hour?
yeah, yes, but there's a rapper from Boston named Rex, Reks, and he has a song with DJ Premier. So Rex is not that well known, but he has a song called "The 25th Hour" with the producer of the song is DJ Premier from Gangstar, and who is very well known in the hip hop world. That's how I heard it. So the movie plus this song got that phrase in my head, and I just bit it from both of them. Great movie though.
Yeah. Do you like it's not very PC these days, but do you like the monologue at the end where he's in the mirror, like telling everyone to go? He's telling
Yeah,
everyone in the mirror to fuck off, but it's all him. And he's just trying to tell himself to fuck off at the end. And it's all about him. It's wild to
yeah.
watch.
Spike Lee, I think, has a lot of those like racial overtones.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, if you take them at face value, they're very not PC. But if I think what Spike Lee's trying to do is kind of like what I was saying about hardcore, open your eyes to how fucked up the world is and how people talk and treat each other. I think that would be so. It's
It makes it less bad. I don't even want to say the R word like on a podcast. I'm monetized now. So I don't even want to say the R word, but it's actually there's a lot of hate in the world. So it actually breaks down barriers to hate because it really shows you it's not actually them at all. It's fucking you.
I agree.
Okay. I didn't do justice and we didn't do justice to talk about keepers of the faith. Um, and I have this in a question somewhere, but I feel like saying it now. Terror is such a legacy band that means so much to so many people. Before I discovered hardcore, before I really knew what your band was all about, I remember seeing the shirts everywhere. And it is a culture for sure. And the music means so much to everyone. I think Keepers of the Faith is an iconic song and it means so much to your fans. I think that's probably the most important song to your fans, I would say, for sure, in my opinion. So let's talk more about Keepers of the Faith and just how that song came to be and where you got the idea for it and what it, just heart wise and intensity wise, like what it means to you. Because how could we not talk about that?
Okay, so Warzone, which I brought up. Don't forget the struggle. They have a song, the title track. Okay, I hope I don't get this right because I'm gonna expose myself as a Warzone poser, which I claim to be one of my favorite records ever. They had the title track on that record. Don't forget the struggle. They have like a little skit before it where the singer is a really big personality. He passed away, but his name is Rabies. And he says this little speech and he says, all you kids out there always keep the faith. So Warzone has like keep the faith on some of their things and stuff. Um, I can't remember the exact, to the best of my remembering things, Terror was in Korea for the first time, which that in itself was amazing. So we're playing our music in Korea. I think I had a couple drinks, so I was a little bit buzzed, and I was going to the bathroom, peeing at the venue, and someone, I'm just assuming a Korean hardcore kid wrote something like "Keep the Faith" on the wall, and it like kind of struck me as like, this is so fucking cool that I'm here, and that's like my favorite hardcore record. Some Korean hardcore kid feels the same way I do. He wrote this on the wall. I'm here reading this. And just at that time, I just had this thing like, I keep the faith. And then I just twisted it into Keepers of the Faith. So I think at that point, like I made a mental note, I want the next Terror record to be called Keepers of the Faith. So after that tour, I went home and Patrick, he did Reaper Records. He's one of my best friends. And I think I presented it to him at the time. Yo, I have this idea, Keepers of the Faith. I want the logo to be what the first time we wrote it. So he was doing his label at the time. He had a t-shirt press. People in hardcore can get shit done. If you're like, if you like to get shit done and you know hardcore kids, you can get shit done. So every year in Syracuse for a long time, January 1st, they do a festival. When I was living in Buffalo before I moved to LA, every January 1st, I'd go to Syracuse New Year's Day show. So now I lived in Syracuse for like a year with him. There's the New Year's Day show coming up. I have this title in my mind. He has a silk screen press. We go to a store and get like champion hoodies, and we make the Keepers of the Faith thing. No one knows what this is. We don't even know what this is, but this is the title. And we make these Keepers of the Faith hoodies, and we both wear them to the show. And this is like the beginning of Keepers of the Faith. We first had the logo straight. Then eventually we made the arch thing, which is Smorgasbord Records ripoff. If people are keeping tabs, that's where we kind of stole that from. And then from there, it was just, this is the first time Terror had a record with a title and an idea of what the record was about. Usually, every band I've ever been in, you record all the songs, you look at all the song titles and be like, this is the coolest song title. That's the name of the record. This was like, we have the idea, and we're going to center the vibe of the record around this logo and the songs. And then it all went from there. And Chad, again, had so many cool ideas to really hammer home the Keepers of the Faith thing. And to your point, to me, if people say that's their favorite Terror record, that's great. To me, it's definitely up there, but it's not even so much about the songs, because half the songs on the record I don't even care about. Half of them are our best songs. The other half are like whatever. But it was this more of like a whole movement. And then specifically to the song, Nick, our drummer, wrote all the music. The lyrics were just kind of everything I just described, that kind of sum up into the lyrics. Common, the rapper from Chicago, he has a song, I Used to Love Her, which if you listen to the song, it's kind of all talking about her, a female, a female, a female. And then at the end, the last line of the song, he says like, yo, I'm talking hip hop. So he's actually like making a female. And when you go back and listen to it a second time, you're like, oh, like he talks about all the things a female goes through, but then he's really talking about all the changes in hip hop. So in Keepers of the Faith, I keep saying her, because I also thought it was cool because hardcore, definitely not now, but back then it was very male dominated. So I thought it would be cool to put her when you're talking about hardcore, because obviously females have a place in hardcore. I think that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love that. That's good. And I think you're willing to admit that it is like a phenomenon, and you do see it everywhere. And it has like lived, and it's just gone all over the world.
What's crazier than that to me, I'm not going to go so far as to say it's a phenomenon, but on that record, there's a photo. My friend Ian. So my friend Ian, I think I think we're asking people to do cool shit with that logo for the record. So the people were doing crazy shit. Like I remember we got sent, someone took one of the stickers and put it on like a cop car and sent us a picture, or like
That's
someone at the
funny.
Eiffel Tower holding it up. Those things didn't make it on the layout. But my friend Ian, uh, he had a Keepers of the Faith hoodie, and I believe he made his son a Keepers of the Faith like little tiny shirt, or maybe we sold them. I don't think so, but I think he made it. And he has a picture of him and his son walking, and they're holding hands from the back. Um, Now that fucking picture has been bootlegged. It's insane. Like by people, every sports team in the world, like not actual sport teams, but people that like illegally sell sports stuff. Um, that picture has been sent to me by like on Father's Day. People just use it for, it's like been used so great. Like we don't see a penny from it. If we did, I would finally be rich, because it's spread so far. No one knows where it came from. Like people just use it. Like I was in Target like 5 minutes from my house, and some guy walked past me with that on his back for like, I don't even know what, I think it was like some like motocross thing. Like everyone just uses that thing. It's just been taken, but
That's
whatever.
funny. That's funny. Well, talking about merch and just seeing how far it reaches, I cannot go to a show without seeing a Pain into Power shirt. It's everywhere as well. And that just brings up the song Pain into Power in the album. And I remember everyone losing their minds when that album came out. And everyone was just like, all the mags, everything online was people just losing their mind on that album. So, how did that come together? And did you know you wanted to be that intense going into it? Did you feel intense? How did it come out of you?
First of all, I think you give us too much credit.
No, I
Terror,
saw it for years before I knew about Terror. So I saw Terror stuff for years before I knew what it was. So now that I know what it is, like when I go to shows, it's everywhere.
well, everyone that buys a piece of merch from us, thank you, because it really does keep us on the road. Being like a full time band that you live off of, and you're just honestly like a traditional hardcore band with no real gimmick or desire to push to the next level, is definitely a struggle. So honestly, every t-shirt sale does help. Um, and I see Terror every show. I know what we are. We're very lucky, and we do have great shows, and we can go anywhere in the world. But sometimes some of the things and maybe it's my humbleness, but sometimes, we're just at this level, which I'm totally fine with. But I don't want anyone that's listening to this that doesn't know Terror to think that I think we're here, because we're just here, which is fine. Anyways,
Well, I'll stop you real quick. So, I became best friends with Hatebreed. So I'm metal. I became friends with Hatebreed. I didn't even know what hardcore was, to be honest. Like I'm a chick from Texas, like started off with radio rock and I got bored with that. And then I got into metal and I was like, well, this is boring. What's heavier than this? What's heavier than this? So I got into like death metal and all that stuff. So I saw a I saw the Godfathers of Hardcore documentary and I loved it and I was charmed and I thought it was, you know, I call hardcore, I call hard things cute. And I was like, that's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I love it. It's so cute. And then I went to a Hatebreed show and I get there and then I'm walking backstage and I see Vinny Stigma walk by me and I was like, oh, holy fucking shit. And then I saw Mike and then I saw Roger and I was like, oh my God, they're here. Oh, and I've never been starstruck in my life. Like I've fucking met everyone, but I just was like, I fucking love these guys. And then I was like, okay, so apparently hardcore band, like Hatebreed's hardcore, these guys are hardcore. What's hardcore? Found out Terror. And just through researching, learning about the bands and learning about the music and ingratiating myself in the shows and the scene, your music means so fucking much to so many people. And it is so genuine. And it really like I won't I won't let you sit here and say that you haven't made the biggest impact in the world because you fucking have. And I've listened to so much of the music and your music is so fucking great. So I'm just not just had to say that it really is impactful and it really has gone all over the world. It really has. So just wanted to say that real quick.
Thank
What were we talking about?
I need to lean into agnostic front right now.
Yeah.
So the first real time I heard hardcore, someone gave me a dub cassette tape. On the B side was Don't Forget the Struggle, the Warzone record I brought up. The A side was Agnostic Front, Victim in Pain. So they're pretty much one of two of the first hardcore bands I ever heard. They deserve to give people starstruck feelings because they are amazing. And The Godfather's a Hardcore documentary. Ian McFarlane made that or produced that or directed that, whatever you call it. I actually just saw him on Sunday. I don't see him much anymore. And he actually directed, I don't know, the very first Terror video for a song called Push It Away. He did that right when he was starting out. This is when he was in Blood for Blood, and he flew out to LA and we did the Push It Away video in Nick's garage. And he also filmed a live set of us at a record store called Headline Records in Hollywood. So he got to start with us. No, I'm just joking. He definitely didn't. But it's funny you just brought that up because I just saw him the other day and I don't really see him much anymore.
Yeah. Well, just to be a purist, I love Terror for your music. I will say that without like the t-shirts and everything else that I could have brought up. It's just the music. And I just really like the music. So yeah.
I do appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, I like to.
Oh, Pain into Power you brought up. Is it okay?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, of course.
So I won't go too deep into this, but Pain in the Power was really special for us because Todd Jones, our original guitarist, who started the band with Nick, our drummer, me and Nick are the only original members. Todd and Nick kind of started the band and one way or another got me involved. Todd, after the band started and things started happening so fast, and I think it really kind of freaked Todd out, and he just, in a very mature way, told us he can't handle the touring. So he eventually left Terror, and he went on. He does Nails now, and he's always been a friend. And just during the pandemic, we had nothing going on, and we just had the idea. Todd is an amazing musician and songwriter. And what the things I said about Chad producing, Todd in his own way produced the new record for us and there's songs on the new Terror record that he wrote the music, lyrics, cadence. I had literally nothing to do. He's just like, I got the whole song. I'm like, hell yes, perfect. So he did so much and it was really crazy. Again, like Jordan and Chris, this is when I still lived in LA. Jordan's in Canada, Chris is in Maine. And we just started getting together in LA with Todd again 20 years after the band started. It was very deja vu, insane amazingness all into one. And he did awesome things. And yeah, can't say enough about Todd and thank him for all his mental insanity that he put into our record. And you asked, did we know we wanted it to be in that intense? We always do, but the extra intensity is motherfucking Todd Jones. I'm not normal, and that motherfucker's not normal, and he is just so intense. And one of the beautiful things about him, he does not let anything slide. If it is not like 10 out of 10 intensity, it doesn't get past him. So he's the reason why.
Perfect. I like to talk about a band's career by going album by album. You can tell us what was going on at the time in the band, what you liked, what you didn't like that from that time, what stuck out. Does
I
that sound
like
good?
this. Yeah, hit
Oh,
me.
good. Okay. All right.
You should start with Demo, then Lowest of the Low, then with One with the Underdogs.
All right. Go for it.
So Demo, okay, I just moved to LA, just getting to know the people in Terror. They're younger than me. And I'm starting to learn how proficient Nick has a studio in his garage, and he's a musical animal. Todd's a musical genius, psycho. And our bass player, Matt Smith, makes the Eagle logo. We have this demo. Hardcore's kind of in this place where like Trustkill bands like 18 Visions and Throwdown, especially in California, are the big thing. And somehow Here Comes Terror, everyone with shaved heads, 1 minute songs, just straight up hardcore with a metallic edge, and things start from there. Then we go to Lowest of the Low on Bridge 9 Records, which is the label at the time that's really like 100% hardcore. They got American Nightmare, Striking Distance, awesome fucking things. We go to Cleveland and record at the hardcore legendary studio Mars, which Bill Korecki just passed away. That's horrible. Rest in peace. Frank and Human Furnace come to the studio, drink. Human Furnace sings on Lowest of the Low. The record, again, in the Todd Jones type of way, because he wrote it all, is just 18 minutes of just chainsaw. And now we're getting more tours. Hatebreed's taking us on tour. Lots of bands are taking us on tour. Blood for Blood, 18 Visions and Throwdown, Every Time I Die. Everything starts just taking off. At this time, we go to Europe. So we don't even have a full length out. We go to Europe with Biohazard. We are playing shows to like 800 to 1,500 people, something none of us have ever done. Barricades, big shows, in a bus. This is where Todd sits me and Nick down and says, this is too crazy. I can't do this. Should I just keep going? Is this what we're...
No, this is perfect. This is exactly.
Okay,
what an interesting personality, by the way. Like, not everyone is like that. Like the success.
Oh, Todd?
Like we're not driving in a van. We're in a bus or something like that, and that's crazy. Not everyone is like that.
So then, One with the Underdogs. Todd, when he leaves the band, is just like, I hate touring. I still want to write. We're like, hell yeah. So he again writes all of One with the Underdogs with me and Nick. We go to Sound City, which is, I think, if I'm saying it right, a really famous studio. We get Freddie Madball, Jamie, Ezak sing on the record. That's all really cool stuff. We leave Bridge 9 and go to Trustkill, which was a little bit shady on our end. It feels a little bad to look back on that, but we were kind of did something that we thought was better for the band, not so great for friendship. Again, things are ramping up. This is the tail end where the band becomes a little more crazy orientated, party orientated. Tons of touring into Always the Hard Way. This is where Todd stops writing. Nick starts writing almost everything. At this point, we're having a lot of member changes. Frank's in the band for a while. Frank leaves to go in Hatebreed. Carl from First Blood was on bass for a while. Busky, Doug Weber. Then we go into The Damned Ashamed, my least favorite record, the drunkest, craziest part of Terror.
I wish I could have been around for one night of that.
No,
No.
not fond.
I said this to Jamie too, like last time I saw him. I was like, you talk so much about like
His
I know you,
drinking.
yeah, he always talks about like,
Oh,
oh, the old days,
maniac,
oh, the bad days.
maniac,
But both
maniac.
of you, like, I still drink, and when I'm like around like Jamie, I'm like, oh, I wish I could have drank with Jamie. Like I wasn't around for it.
He, yes, not great. Um,
Yeah.
then we get Jordan and David Wood in the band. And this is where we kind of mentally take a shift where we were touring with a lot of bands outside of the hardcore. We always, obviously, we're always doing hardcore stuff, but we were touring with a lot of different bands, and we kind of said, this isn't making us happy. We kind of recentered with Keepers of the Faith. Since that lineup with Jordan and David Wood, which was 2009, we've only had one lineup change. So like 15 years, one David left and Chris came in. Keepers of the Faith happened. We talked a lot about that. So we'll kind of skip to Live by the Code. Again, Chad produces. It's just a lot of touring. Everything from there on in, they kind of just like center off. The lineup kind of centers. We're getting older. The insanity, it ramped up, and now it's starting to ramp down to a point now where we're just kind of this less insane, less touring, but still more touring than most people. There's no more arguments. It's really just smooth sailing. But thank God, like what you said, the intensity is still there. The live show's still there. Because you would think when people get into their 40s and 50s and the drinking goes away and the fighting goes away and the drama goes away, you would think maybe the music loses its intensity. When that happens, we'll stop. But on the last record, it definitely didn't stop. So we'll keep going.
Yeah. And talk about intensity. Like I hadn't been to a Tear show in like a year and a half. And I got there a little bit after you guys started playing, and I just immediately went into the pit. And then I forgot how dangerous a fucking Tear pit is. And then I was like, oh fuck. And then hid behind the PA and was like holding my head and figuring out. And then then it's survival. So it is, Tear shows are crazy and they're intense and they're dangerous, and that's fun. So you still have that intensity and power and ability to call 20 people up on stage and every 5 seconds and just have them shoot off the stage.
Let's have that fun, but please no one get hurt. Thank you.
Yeah.
And no one hurt anyone, please.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a very fine line, but once someone gets hurt, then the fun all goes away. So,
can I ask you a serious question though? Like, or not serious, but
yeah, that's
but
podcasting.
oh, thanks. Oh, good. No, but it is like, which I'm gonna cut this out. Never mind. I'm gonna cut it, so we need to talk about it. But okay, I have like 1 minute. What's like one other good story about one of your popular songs? That's like the meat and the potatoes. That's the best thing I could ask.
Okay, here's a great final thought. So on the new record, Pain into Power, we thankfully and in an awesome way got Corpse Grinder to sing on it, which was Todd's idea, but I had already known him and reached out to him and got him on the record, which is amazing. My idea before that, which I tried to put into motion, and I got to the drummer, but never heard back from this person because this is such a different idea. I tried to get to Milo from the Descendants. Not for that song, but my idea was to get Milo from the Descendants on the Terror record. So we went from like the Descendants and it landed on Cannibal Corpse. Like maybe that's the summary of what Terror is, somewhere in the middle of that.
I like that. Wait, I just thought of a really good question.
Okay.
Um, why have you not done any like collabs with hip hop artists? It's probably the best. I just
You're
came up with
sh-
it. End of the
well,
interview.
well,
It's the
well, well,
best
well.
question I could have asked.
But it's the worst question because you're showing your lack of knowledge for Terror. Because we have a song, with Vinny Paz from
Okay.
Jedi Mind Tricks, and
Okay.
also on Always the Hard Way, there's a song called Dibs Checks In with Mr. Dibs and Merce. So I'm sorry that your great idea has been debunked.
I'm not sorry at all because I would say I have 7, 8 songs in my Terror catalog that I listen to over and over and over again, and I'm not sorry at all. And I don't care about that at all. It's because I love them.
Can I give
Perfect.
you one? Are you going to leave the hip hop part in?
Yeah,
Can I give you one final hip hop story?
sure.
So, Gangstar is probably my favorite hip hop group ever. DJ Premier, who I talked about earlier with the Rex track, is like the most amazing hip hop producer of all times. I almost I tried to meet him once by showing him my hip hop or my Gangstar tattoo, and he had 2 girls with him and kind of just like chumped me off, which is fine. Totally into it. But I think maybe Premier is into females because of where I'm going with this. So Jules Jordan, who I'm not huge in the porn world, but he's like this big porn guy. He's actually a hardcore kid who sang in this band called Vigil, who, if you know anything about me, this band Conviction, one of my favorite bands, turned into Vigil, and they were just a band for a minute. So he was in Vigil. He lives in LA. He knows I love Gangstar and Premier. And I guess Premier goes to porn conventions. So Jules knows him. Jules tells me we were doing this. This is why I thought of this. We were doing like a Terror mixtape to give away for free that our merch company at the time was going to pay for. And we were getting all these hip hop drops, like hip hop people saying stuff. Andrew from Strife was a big help. And we got all these things. So Jules is going to get Premiere to do one. I can't remember the exact story. My phone rings. We're playing in LA. My phone rings. It's an unknown number. I send it to voicemail and I write, "Who's this?" Because I think it's someone just asking me to be on the guest list, which is not always my favorite thing. And I get a text. "Oh, sorry. This," because I think who's this is, I guess, kind of rude. He's like, "Oh, this is DJ Premier. I just wanted to do this drop." I was like, "Oh my God." So eventually he called back and left this drop on my voice note, and it came out on this, what I'll call a mixtape, but really just a free compilation thing. And still in my phone, I'm sure this was like 15 years ago. I still have his number in my phone so I can pretend, show people that I have DJ Premier's phone number. I'm sure I don't, and I never met him or hung out with him, but I like to pretend I did.
Hey, it's fun every now and then when you scroll through your phone and see something funny. I've got a few of those. That's good. Are you guys writing new music right now?
January.
Cool. Do you have some things in your head right now?
Just the list I spoke of, the lyric list.
Got you. All right.